Νίκη Κρουσουλούδη. Είμαι η EU Project Manager στη CIVINET και είμαι η moderator της σημερινής μέρας. Το πρώτο workshop είναι για την διαχείριση κινητικότητας σε μεγάλα κτίρια και εγκαταστάσεις, Mobility Management, και ο ομιλητής είναι ο Professor Matteo Colleoni, είναι καθηγητής στο Πανεπιστημίου του Μιλάνο και είναι και εθνικός συντονιστής στο TaskForce για την κινητικότητα στο Υπουργείο Υποδομών και Μεταφορών της Ιταλίας.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your kind invitation. So, in this workshop, we talk about mobility management, challenges, strategies, and policies. So, I'd like to divide my presentation. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not able to speak in Greek, so I speak in German or in English. In English, it's okay for you. I try to speak very, very slow, and but we have the support also of the slides, so in case. So I'd like to divide my presentation in three parts. And what are the main challenges for urban sustainability today? And we have to tackle when we wanted to to implement mobility management policies. And this is the first part of my presentation. And the second part is mobility management. What are the main strategies and objectives? And the last part, what are the main policies of mobility management? Okay, so I think we talk just for 40 minutes, so I open the debate with you and concerning the more interesting and the issues and you found in my presentation. Okay, so when we wanted to implement an urban mobility and the strategies, we have to face four main challenges and which change the structure of the mobility demand. Because don't forget, we have to face a different mobility demand and compared to the past. So we wanted to implement a mobility management, we have to consider we have a different demand, completely different than in the past. And what are these main strategies and challenges? The first one refers to the demographic change. I will show you some evidences in the next slides. So in the world, the population reach 9.5 billion in 2050, and 90% in developing countries, and especially 90% of 20% of the world population will be over 60 years old. So the demand of mobility will come from elderly people. And this is the reality in new cities, in contemporary and Europe. And the second, the climate change, the increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, with bad consequences on increasing number of people and increasing expenditure on transport infrastructure. This is the reality, for example, in our European and the central and the European cities, and breakdowns, the risk of disruptions, and which will damage our infrastructure of mobility. The third one is referred to the urbanization. So by 2050, 70% of the world population will live in cities, and the global urban population is growing at the rate of 2 people per second. It's increasing. It's a dramatic increase in urban population. And the third challenge refer to the increase in motorization. The expectation is to reach the peak of 2 billion cars, mainly in developing countries. And the modal share of car use will continue to be the highest, with electric share still weak on total fleets. Also, okay, so we will show you some empirical evidences of each challenges. So we will have to talk about how to face these challenges with proper and mobility management strategies. Okay, the first one, the increase of the world population. And in 2000, across the world, we were 60 billion of inhabitants. Today, we are 8 billion of inhabitants. So over the last 20 years, population increased by 2 billion of inhabitants, and notably in developing countries. It's a dramatic increase. And you have to know that the population of the human race has not been a lot. So until the middle of the 19th century, we were more or less 1 billion of inhabitants across the world. And now, just in 1 century, we increased by 7 billion. And a second evidence, the urbanization in Europe, and 72% of the European population live in urban areas, but not just in urban areas, notably in suburban and peri-urban areas, which is different. For example, in my city, which is Milan, and most of the population don't live in the center of the city, in the inner city, but that live in the suburban and peri-urban area, on the outskirts of the metropolitan area, with dramatic consequences on commuting, because there is a very high share of people commuting every day from the peri-urban areas to the inner city every day, and commute and come back at the evening, with the very, very huge flows of motorization and mobility. So, because we are facing an important process of peri-urbanization and metropolitan areaization. And for example, this is the situation in Italy. On the right, you can see the metropolitan areas in Milan and in Italy. In Milan on the left, in Italy on the right. It's interesting and to highlight then the metropolitan areas cover the 10% of the surface, but within the metropolitan areas live the 42% of the population. So half of the population in Italy live on the 1/10 of the surface. So in these metropolitan areas, the intensity of mobility is very, very high. And another evidence refers to cars. Car fleet in the world currently is about 1,200,000,000 cars, and the expectation is to reach 2 billion. And especially in developing countries, the share of batteries electric cars is 0.8%, nothing, really nothing. This is in Europe. In Italy is 0.5% for the global fleet, not for the new motorization. And this is because a chauffeur, and who is a friend and a very important scholar, German scholar, is studying this issue, and says the largest wave of motorization is yet to come, because it is yet to come from developing countries. So the last evidence, one of the last evidence, and the modal share. This is recent statistics from the Environmental European Agency, 2023, very recent. In this case, road transport continued to account for more than 90% of total mobility, and within this, the majority is done in endothermic private cars. And the yellow bar. Okay, so this is the situation in Italy. Okay, so 78 and in one region, but on average we have more or less 70% of the using car, and modal share is 65% of cars. Bikes are more or less 4%, and the mobility on foot 19%. With an increase of a non-systematic mobility. I think you know what is a non-systematic mobility and systematic mobility. Okay, mobility systematic is mobility to reach and the working place or school, and whereas non-systematic mobility is the mobility to reach a normal place where to consume, to buy food, and to have a relationship with other relatives or friends. So, okay, the share of not systematic mobility has increased a lot. So the share is in Italy, but more or less the same in every European country, is more or less 62%, and with the reduction of intermodal travel. And this is the rate of motorization in Italy, but in Greece is more or less the same. We have 53 million vehicles out of 60 million of inhabitants. So the motorization rate is 672. We have a vehicle fleet very old and very polluting. As you can imagine, more or less the average year of a car in Italy is 12 years. The situation is similar to the other southern countries in Europe. And with these very bad consequences, and concerning environmental impact of transport in Europe, the transport sector is a major contributor to greenhouse gas, and the emission of transport was responsible for 26% of the total greenhouse gas emission, but while the overall GHG emission have fallen by 24% of the last year in different sectors, those of transport has risen by 33%. This is the reason, because we have to start with transport policies. When we talk about the transport policies, we have two types of transport policies: supply policies and demand policies. Supply policies are more known as traffic system management. For example, when you want to build new infrastructures, new services, and so on. It's the supply side of transport policy. And but at the other side, we have, in this case, supply policies, we have demand policies. What are demand policies? Are demand system management, are policies acting on behavior, on commuting, on our mobility, our daily mobility. So they require low investment and short time horizons. This is the reason because it's not possible to achieve a better sustainable mobility and a better sustainable cities, and acting on demand policies. And one and the domain of demand policies refer to mobility management. Okay, so I arrived to the second point of my presentation. So we focused before on the main challenges. Challenges changed dramatically the structure of the mobility demand. So when we wanted to implement the mobility management policies, so we have to consider this different structure. And so let's look at the mobility management policies. Okay, so what are the main objectives of mobility management? We have 4 objectives, or encouraging greater use of sustainable mode of transport, and namely active mobility on foot and by bicycles and by public transport. And improving sustainable accessibility for people and organization. Accessibility is the real keyword. We normally say, and the accessibility is the goal, the mobility is the behavior, and the transport is the instrument. So it's better talking about mobility policies than talking about transport policies. Because we should act on behavior, not just improving investment to infrastructure services. So this is the reason because we prefer to talk about mobility policies than to transport policies. Because the real goal is the accessibility, to improve access of people to the primary and the goods and the services, not just the utilities, not just utilities. We prefer to speak about opportunities. We want to improve the access to urban opportunities, because to access to a shop is, or to a public service is an utility. But I'd like to access to my relatives or to the place where my friend live. In this case, I have to access to relationships, which is completely different. Notably, if I am an elderly people, and the share of elderly people has increased a lot, I told you before. The third objective is increase efficiency in transport infrastructure, use and land use, okay, talking about efficiency. And the fourth one is to reduce traffic by limiting the number, the length, the need for travel by private vehicles. Reduce traffic in Italy, but in general across Europe, reduce traffic is the main goal of mobility management strategies. We have to reduce traffic and to shift from private and thermic to active and public transport, and to improve accessibility to primary services. Okay, it's very easy to talk about it, but it's so difficult to do it. Quite impossible in such a situation. But okay, we can and try to look at how to proceed in this way. So one way is to have a national law in order to nominate and two types of a mobility manager. Okay, in Italy we have 2 types of a mobility manager. We have a corporate mobility manager, and we have an area mobility manager. So the law is not important for you, it's the decree 179 of 2021. And on the left side of this slide in yellow, you can see the main objectives of a corporate mobility manager working in enterprise, public or private enterprises. For example, in a company or working in a municipality, at the condition to have at least 100 employees. This is the limit, 100 employees. No, if you have not 100 employees, you're not. It's not compulsory, and to nominate a mobility manager. So, in Milan, we have a corporate mobility manager working in our municipality. For example, in a company, for example, in Pirelli, okay, which is a very big and famous brand in front of my university in the northern part of Milan. And they have a mobility manager, a corporate mobility manager. But at the same time, the city of Rome, the city of Naples, the city of Venice, they have an area mobility manager, which is different, with a different objectives. Why we wanted to nominate two different types of mobility manager? Because the corporate mobility manager and works on corporate objectives, and whereas the area mobility manager works at the municipality level in order to coordinate the different corporate mobility managers. So a corporate mobility manager is supposed to draw up a home work travel plan. I think you know what is a home work travel plan. Every mobility manager is supposed to draw up a home work travel plan, but the mobility manager of the area is supposed to coordinate all the mobility manager of the different companies, different public enterprises, in order to collect information about commuting of employees and to send this information to the Ministry of Transport Infrastructure. So there is a virtuous cycling of information. So we can look at the different objectives. Okay, systematic detection of employees' journeys and their level of satisfaction. Drafting and verification of the implementation of the homework travel planning. Maintain relationships with public and private bodies. To activate information dissemination and awareness initiatives on the topic of sustainable mobility. When I work as a corporate, for example, in my case, I'm professor of urban studies, but at the same time, I am the mobility manager of my university. My university has 40,000 students, many students. More or less in Milan, we have 200,000 students. My university, we have 40,000 students. I have to collect information about the commuting of the students and all the professors and all the employees. The commuting from home to university. What time do you leave your home? What is the combination of your different means? Are you satisfied about this or not? So I have to prepare a home work travel plan in order to improve their mobility, to shift their mobility from the endothermic and vehicular and way to the public and active where is possible. But it's so difficult. I talked before about the peri-urbanization. For example, talking about my students, on average, they cover a distance of 28 kilometers from the homes to the university. It's not possible to cover this distance on foot or by bicycle or by an electric bicycle. It's not possible. We are not in Copenhagen with okay, the motorway for bicycles. So the only solution is the intermodality, to take the bicycles, to put the bicycle on the train and to arrive at the university by train. So to cover the first and the last mile by bicycle and to cover the greater part of the distance by train. So this is my work. I have to build a station. I have to do many policies. I will show you the list of the different policies, but later. But what is and what are the objectives of a mobility area of a mobility manager of the area is completely different. They have to coordinate the activities of a corporate and the school mobility managers, connect with public transport management bodies, to support in the definition and implementation of the sustainable local mobility policies, to support of the drafting of house or home work travel plan. How is possible to draft this plan? Okay, this is my task. I have to support you in order to draft this plan. And as a mobility manager of a municipality, for example in Athens, in Milan, I have to collect all the information, to analyze all the information, and to send this information to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructures in order to select information and to manage public transport at the central and the local level. I will show you. And not all the municipalities are supposed to have an area mobility manager, but just some categories of municipalities, and especially, okay, sorry, it's in Italian. Okay, the number of municipalities more or less 7,900. The capital of a region are 20. The capital of a provinces are 109. And the municipality with more than 50,000 inhabitants. They are just the categories of municipalities and which are supposed to nominate a mobility manager. So if you are a very, very small municipality, we are not compulsory to nominate a mobility manager of area, but just if you are the capital of a region, a capital of a province, or a big city with more than 50,000 inhabitants. Okay? This is the rule according our law, and the different companies with more than 100 employees. Okay, so this is very good because in this way we have a very good network of mobility manager, corporate and area in all the different companies, private companies and the different municipalities, in order to collect information about commuting and to interact with different employees and to propose and policies. We have just, if you skim this slide, we have a national observatory for planning, support and monitoring sustainable local mobility at the central level, at the Ministry of Transport Infrastructure, with a specific and strategies, purposes, the number 3 development of operational method of a mobility manager. We have a task force. I am currently the president of this task force in Rome, and with 18 components coming from different municipalities in order to work on area mobility management to improve and to improve the coordination between the mobility manager of area and the corporate mobility manager in order to improve the information about this topic. Okay, so these are the goals, and okay, I talked about homework travel plan. Every companies, every public or private enterprise are supposed to prepare a homework travel plan. The specific parts of a homework travel plan are 4: to get information and analysis of the homework travel plan. And for example, my university is a university at the northern part of the Milan. My company is in the central part of Athens. How many services and public transport we have, what time, what is the frequency, and so on. And what is the normal and the mobility profile of our employees. Then there is the design part, when we design measures, and we will see in the next step the main measures and connected to this plan, and to implement the schedule, to communicate the homework travel plan to employees, and to monitor It's not sufficient to collect information with this plan, but we have to apply this plan and to communicate with our colleagues, because different is not possible to collect no information, and all information are just a mistake. It's very, very hard and to correlate with mobility management policies, and then to monitor, to control, to check. Okay, so the next slide. Okay, and I move to the last part of my presentation, and then I open the space for the debate. The policy, what are the main policies for mobility management? We normally, I think you know, and the ASI approach, which is the typical approach for sustainable mobility across Europe. As ASI means A, avoid, S, shift, and I, improve. So these are the typical strategies of mobility management. Avoid and reduce the need for motorized travel. Secondly, shift to more sustainable modes. And the third, improve transport modes. Okay, these are the most important strategies of sustainable mobility policies at different level, also at the municipality level, when we want to achieve the goal of sustainability. So in the next step, I try to take these macro and policies and to apply these micro policies to the micro and policies acted by corporate or a mobility area mobility manager. So we should. Okay, we have roughly 6 axes of policies. And the first one is discourage the individual use of private and service car. This is the first goal. The first axis, discourage the individual use of private service car. Then I will show you some methods in order to achieve this goal. And considering different mobility management policies across Europe. The second one is promote the use of a collective transport, not just public transport, but a collective transport, including sharing and public mobility. So it's better to talk about a collective, not just public transport. Collective is better. The third one is promoting active mobility and micro-mobility. I prefer to use the expression active mobility, not street mobility or slow mobility, because cycling in the central city is faster than using a car, and because of the congestion. So it's not correct to use the expression slow mobility. Or why street mobility? Yeah, it's a bit better, and street mobility, but I prefer active mobility, because it's connected with the wellness of the population. And the fourth axis, reduce the demand for mobility, smart working, online purchases, in-company services. This is very interesting, and we discussed with you a lot about the axis 4, and which becomes very important after the COVID-19, when we were compulsory to stay at home and to avoid demand for mobility. The fifth axis, promoting, this is very important, structural, and technological and organizational changes. For example, change the schedules of our work, change the settlement, the dislocation of our place and workplace. Think about it. I will show you some examples. And the last one is one of my favorites, and it's to promote the modification of values, behavior, and habits. So it's very interesting, because don't forget, mobility is like sleeping, eating, is a habit. The most important habit we have to sleep, to eat, and to move. Yeah. Yeah, okay, of course. So it's so difficult to change our habit. It's not sufficient to say, change your habit. Okay, thank you very much. Or if I say you, okay, change your alimentation. Don't eat so much fat. Oh, thank you. Don't smoke so a lot. Okay, I know. Smoking is dangerous for your health. Yes, I know. Okay, so it's not sufficient to move and to act on the rational side of our brain. We have to change our habit. When we are a mobility manager, when I am a mobility manager with my students, I have to follow little by little with a very passionate and approach to change their behavior. I say to my student, you are my student, now I collect information about your commuting, your movement every day. Are you available? Yes, I'm available. Also with a laptop. Yes, with a laptop to follow my movement. Yes, but little by little I show you the result, the findings. Show you how many feet you did, and if you reached the most important opportunities or not, if you are more happy about your new mobility. So we have to little by little to change a habit. To change a habit, we have to follow people. It's not sufficient to collect information about people. It's not a good approach. And to collect just information. We have to collect information and explaining to the people why we are collecting information and we have to define what are the main objectives we wanted to achieve. To achieve a goal for you, not just for the organization. Okay, so I show you. So, okay, little by little, okay, some considering different mobility management policies across Europe, and a list of the most important policies related to the different axes. First axis, discourage the individual use of private and service car. Systematic mobility, service mobility. We have two types of mobility. Mobility and the commuting from my home to my workplace, and the mobility and to move when I am at work. For example, I was in Milan and I came in Athens by airplane, unfortunately, because I prefer to come here by train, but it's not possible, or by boat from the south of Italy. Perhaps it's possible, but I live in Milan, so it's not possible to take a boat in Brindisi or in Bari. So, but normally we say don't use the plane for travel and less of 500 kilometers. Nobody take the plane from Milan to Rome, because we have a vast train which covers this distance in 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours, 30 minutes to cover 500, 600 kilometers, because the average speed is 300 kilometers per hour, very, very fast. So in this case, it's not sufficient, it's not necessary to use a plane. It's better to use a plane, but a train, but it's the same for and the other services. To reduction of parking spaces, or at or within the institution, reducing a parking space. So it's so difficult to reduce parking space. And my rector, my bachelor, and said to me, no, I don't want to reduce a parking space for cars. Why not? I am the mobility manager. I suggest you to reduce. They replied me, yes, you reduce 3 parks. 3 seats for 3-4 cars in order to build a little station, a parking for bicycles, but she didn't want to reduce a lot the parking space, so this is the problem. And to application for differential criteria for allocation of displacement place, for example, to avoid to cover a garden and to reuse parking spaces in order to build the gardens and within an organization, for example, in my university. And to the application of the incentives for pooling or for collective mobility choices, the application of incentives for mobility choices with electric vehicles. For example, if you come to the university with an electric vehicle, you can recharge your cars in the parking of my university. It is free and without paying anything. Okay, this is a benefit, and improve the purchase and the use of an electric car, offering electric shuttles to connect with major intermodal nodes. For example, we have a bus, an electric bus, to cover all the distances in our campus. But the different companies, they have the same. They share the same bus with other companies, which is another very, very effective policies to share the same services covering the same area. For example, in the northern part, where there is my university, I am closer to Pirelli, closer to Falk, closer to Philips, Deutsche Bank, very big companies with many employees. So we share the use of electric bus and the shuttle to connect the different parts of the campus. In some cases, we share also mobility manager. And instead of, for every company, one corporate mobility manager, but just one mobility manager, and who coordinates the other one. So this is very interesting in order to manage and a vast area, not just one point, and in order also to divide the expenses. And the replacement of a vehicle fleet with electric vehicles is not possible to buy endothermic vehicle now in Italy, and for universities, for public administration, they have to buy hybrid and battery cars. It's not possible to buy endothermic cars. To provide electric shuttles for mobility and service area, and the prohibition to use private cars for work trips to destinations served by collective transport. I told you before the case. Move to the second one, promote collective transport. In this case, we apply normally concession policies. For example, agreement with public transport services. For example, we have a card. The name of a card is I Travel Everywhere, and we pay €2 per day. And in a year, it's more or less €700 paid by myself, and the rest of 300-400 is paid by my administration, and for using all the mise en transport, all the mise en transport freely, all the public transport in my region. So I paid, so I have a card, I pay. It's a sort of mass mobility as a service and integrated and a system of transport. So I use my card to take a boat, to take a train, to take a public transport, to commute or not to commute. I'm free, just for €3 a day. And because the rest of the payment is covered by my administration, by the company, because there is an agreement with public transport services, a convention with public sharing, proposal of integrated mass forms, and to interact with the mobility manager of the area to implement improved interventions for access to the venue. I had to work with the mobility manager of Milan, of my municipality, in order to give him my commuting data, but in order also to decide together what are the main services in my neighborhood. With a TOD approach, I don't know if you know what is a TOD. TOD is a transit-oriented destination. It's very interesting in urbanism, and which is my sector. TOD is to improve the modal spaces with services. So a railway station, okay, a transport system is set up of lines and nodes. Lines, for example, streets, and nodes, for example, railway station. But a railway station is not just a railway station where to shift mode of transport. It's also a place where to access services. Okay, so we are working a lot in the urbanistic approach in order to improve the quality of services at the railway station level, in order to transform them in a TOD, in a hub to find services. For example, during the COVID-19, and a lot of employees were worried about the possibility to work at home because they have the children, there is the noise, it's not possible to divide the normal and work for family, for the house, and the normal work for the company. So they suggested to create a co-working space in the railway station, and which are close to their home, but not so far away as a normal and workplace. As co-working spaces, so this is a very interesting solution. So if we move to another one, to promote active mobility and micro-mobility. In this case, we can see on the list of mobility management policies, in order to promote active mobility, the agreement with the vehicle purchase, accessory and repair stores. So we selected a list of stores available to sell, for example, bicycles or some devices related to bicycle at lower prices. To propose a form of reward for those who access to the workplace by micro-mobility. Means if you come to the university, you come to the company by bicycle, you can save minutes and to go out, to go home before. For example, okay, you can say it's a sort of time diary, time agenda, in order to save time, because you get the working place by bicycle. And to create protected and supervised velo station, also with photovoltaic support, locker room, shower, and the bike stations, the possibility to get our workplace and to change our clothes after cycling, sweating in summer. It's not possible to go in the office or to go in my class and to give a lecture. So I have a shower, so I change my bicycle. And granting bonuses for the purchase of bicycles, granting a contribution for cyclist insurance, this is important. And I don't know in Greece, but in Italy, after a lot of time, we fortunately, and we change national law, and to cover with insurance the commuting also for bicyclists. You know, if you take a car to go to the workplace, in case of accident, you are covered by the insurance, but not before if you were riding a cycle. But now, yes, it's possible. Bicycle is and become a means of transport. And activate training courses and so on. And we are not able to implement bike lanes because a mobility manager is not supposed to build the bike lanes because we have not the money, the fund. It's so expensive to build and the bike lanes, but we can have a relation with the mobility manager area and told him, we need to have a bike lane, a continuous bike lane connecting the central Milan with the northern part of our city. And so we design the bike lane with him. Okay, we don't pay, but we have to be consulted in order to design with the manager of the transport sector of my city in order to design and to draw the bike lanes around in my neighborhood. And reduce the demand for mobility. Okay, this is very interesting. I don't know in Greece, but especially, and the big farmer and are the best place in order to have mobility and smart working policy. But the problem we had in some countries, also in Italy, to have smart working and policies in small and middle-sized enterprises. So for a mobility manager, it's very important to have a contact with the mobility manager, the corporate mobility manager of our private companies, in order to improve the possibility to have smart working, not just at home, but also in the third place, in the hub. And as I told you before, in co-working spaces, or to create a co-working space with different companies, not just at home. So it's not just to decide if you want to work in the workplace or to work at home, but to share the working place with the different companies. And so in this case is a support of training and implement services in or at the workplace to contain service and mobility during commuting at the working place. I don't know, in this case, food services, educational services for children, sport, recreation. So the different services at the level of the workplace are a good and strategy in order to reduce mobility during the working time. If you don't have to come back home, but if you stay all the day in your working place, it's possible to reduce mobility in order to go to in a supermarket, to go to the public office, and increasing the delivery service at the working station. So the last one is the promote a structural and a technological organizational change. This is very interesting because we talk about time-based interventions in order to promote elasticity in entry and in exit. I think in every enterprise, private or public, there is a possibility to have a range of time to enter or to exit, and we are trying to articulate the work activity over several days and time slot. For example, we are trying to propose time slots for educational activities in the evening, on Saturday, and also on the Sunday, in order to reduce the flows of mobility during the day. Yes, I finished. But it's just very difficult. It's so difficult to change the schedule, and for not for students, but especially for employees. And for employees, it's so difficult because they don't want to work, for example, the Saturday or the Sunday morning because it's a weekend. Okay, but we are trying to change the schedule of our lecture. For example, in order not to increase the flows in the peak hour at 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning or 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So, okay, this is a very interesting policy to try. And to finish, we have the axis of promoting the modification of values, behavior, and habit. I highlight a very interesting approach, international approach, which is named the ABC paradigm. And I think you know the ABC paradigm of our friend Elizabeth Shove. And ABC paradigm means if you want to change your choice, modal choice, you have to change your behavior, you have to change your attitudes. So you have to change your habits, your attitudes, not just your behavior. So we have an interesting because we have two different domains of theories: the theory of the planned behavior and the script-based choice theory. And modal choice refers especially to the second domain, to the script-based choice theory. Garvin and Clausen are the scholar and most famous analyzing this topic. So modal choice as script-based choice is unlikely to be influenced by a rational argument. So we have to change behavior little by little. So we have a very interesting group of scientists, notably in Australia, and working on the VTB VV, which means voluntary travel behavior change. There are many interesting scientific articles concerning this approach for personal travel planning, campaigns to raise awareness of the consequences of travel, how work school travel plans, mobility sharing schemes. But in a nutshell, we have to adopt this approach in order to change behavior, travel voluntary, not compulsory, and following little by little people using also instrumental devices and electronic devices, but selecting and a proper sample and following this sample little by little on time in order to move. And for example, we have many strategies to do it. For example, if I have a fund, not a lot of money, in order to change mobility, I work with the student of the first year, not with all the students. The first year. Why the first year? Because they don't have an habitual and behavior to commute from home to the university. If you are in a company, if you have a limited fund, I suggest to work on the new personnel, the new employee, because little by little, it's a completely different concept of benefit. The benefit is not to give you a car. The benefit is to give you a card in order to do public transport. So you have to give people completely different benefit. In company, normally, you don't, the approach is completely the opposite. I give you the car. If you use the car, you can continue to use the car. But if you don't drive a lot, I remove this benefit. This is the approach now. In Philips, in Amsterdam, we changed completely the approach. I give you a card to use freely all the public transport for the first year. So we follow people in order to evaluate the possibility to shift behavior. Or for example, in some counties in the US, they give a free card to use public transport for new citizens in order to change their behavior. So it's possible to give some benefit and to control, to monitor the change in behavior. So in this case, there are a program, Travel Smart, in school and workplaces. If you work and if you write, and Travel Smart in schools, there is a very interesting example, the Travel Smart in Australia National Travel Behavior Change Program. It's Travel Smart in schools and workplaces and acting on the voluntary side of our behavior. And when you implement mobility management policies, you have to consider also the benefit. We have three kinds of benefit: the benefit for the employee, the benefit for the community, the benefit for the company. It's very important to talk with the staff, the governance of our company, to show them what are the main benefits for our company changing mobility and toward sustainable mobility. For the employees, reduce the travel time, reduce transportation costs, economic incentives, reduce the risk of accident, increase travel comfort, increase socialization to the community when I work or when I ride a bicycle. But for the company, regularly in the arrival of the employees, increase the dedication to work of employees as a result of the service provided, the reuse of company areas as a result of a reorganization of parking areas, income from the possible charging in corporate parking areas, and the enhancement of the image of our company. So it's important. Okay, so the conclusion is 3-4 points to conclude, really. And as a corporate mobility manager and as an area mobility manager, we have, first of all, and every year, to draw up a home work travel plan. And we have to integrate with the plan with the normal municipality, transport, and the settlement place. We have to plan in an integrated way. It's not possible to divide the transport planning with the settlement planning and the urban planning. We have to integrate the SUMP, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, are integrated plan in theory. But we have to transform not just in theory this plan in the real plan, integrated. We have to access to ministerial data. We have to access to administrative data in order to have a good knowledge of the origin destination of our employees, and we have to every time to use evaluation instrument in order to monitor the achievement of this goal. Okay, I think I have finished. Okay, Apple you know very well, and it's a very interesting website. And the European Platform Mobility Management talking about this topic. Thank you very much for your attention. I think it's possible to have to open the space for a question, or in case if you have a question. Okay. Otherwise, we go to have a glass of water.
Who use public transport or bicycles, they start to get credits, and they can spend those credits exactly even for public services, or even in private services like buy a coffee for free and things like that. And it was actually, I would say, quite popular because it made them win, I guess, this European capital of culture or something. So it seems that mobility is quite central. The thing I wanted to ask perhaps is actually like, what's been the impact so far? Like, how do you see that this is changing actually how people
we have different impacts. When mobility manager works very well, and with very clear benefits credits for people using bicycles, we have a very interesting results in order to decrease the number of people using private cars in order to achieve his goal to reach the university or different companies. Good results also concerning the health status of employees. Or in Parma, which is a region, a city in a region of Italy, and very involved on this topic, and they started a project with health staff in order to check the health status of employees using bicycles for a long period. One day, after 6 months, after 1 year, with very good findings concerning, for example, the blood pressure and also the effectiveness of the work. So in this case, it's very good. But on the opposite, when the policy is just rare, not continuous, it's so difficult to achieve this goal. So it all depends on the capacity of the company to believe, first of all, in the mobility management, and secondly, to have the right fund, because without the fund it's not possible to implement the mobility management policy. Without the fund it's not possible to do anything. Normally there is an open issue between the very, very high objectives we wanted to achieve and the tiny fund to achieve this goal. So one important things when we work with companies, public or private, is to think about the relation between the fund and the goal you wanted to achieve. Don't state and don't define a very, very high goal to achieve if you are not fund, or if you are not a staff and which believe in these goals, because it is very frustrating in different behavior way when you have a very, very high end goals, you have not fund or you have not credit from your governance in order to achieve this goal. But differently when you have good staff, when you have good management, the right fund related to the right objectives and following the sample of employees for the right time and get very good results. From different point of view of model share and model shift and the increase of the satisfaction of the employees and the health condition of the employees. The relation between gender, we are also working a lot studying the relation between different genders in the working place for people using the foot and pedestrian mobility and the cycling and in order to work on the collective way, not just the private way of transport. So